In October of 2023, 10 brigades in the 150 series were formed by Ukraine to be filled by recent conscription legislation. At the same time, around the frontline city of Avdiivka, a city which had been on the front line between Ukrainian and Russian forces since 2014, Russian efforts to take the city had renewed under increased pressure to take advantage of exhausted manpower and materiel on the Ukrainian side, much of which had been influenced by delays in U.S. aid throughout 2023 and European failures to scale up their domestic military industries to deal with rising and present threats. This would continue throughout the winter, and aid would only begin to flow again after the fall of the city, which caused serious losses of territory for Ukraine throughout 2024. Ukrainian Forum reported the statement by Zelensky on July 4th, 2024, that Ukraine had not received the aid to equip 14 brigades that they were planning on adding to the fight in 2024 to alleviate pressure. Indeed, throughout 2024, the conversation has been around an exhaustion of Ukrainian manpower and whether the 20,000 Ukrainian troops sent to Kursk were an appropriate use of a limited pool of manpower. During all this time, 28,000 trained troops have been continuing training and awaiting the equipment they need to be deployed for 9 months. This is not necessarily due to Ukraine demanding more aid to equip these brigades, but instead asking that promised aid actually be delivered. And we can see some of this from the variety of systems new to Ukraine being in service exclusively with these brigades. As of mid-September 2024, Zelensky made the statement to CNN that even as the year enters its final months, not even 4 out of 14 brigades can be equipped with delivered aid. But what are these brigades? What do they look like? What has been absent on Ukraine's front line throughout 2024? The first brigade to look at is not even particularly Western equipped, and will serve as more or less as a baseline comparison for all other brigades mentioned. The 150th Mechanized is equipped overall in the same manner as a decently equipped mechanized brigade from before the 2022 invasion. For their main battle tanks, they've been seen training with the T-64BV OBR 2017, the latest upgrade available, albeit a more cost-effective one than prior upgrades like the Bulat. It features similar capabilities to any other Soviet MBT that came after it, each having their own slightly different quirks in mobility and protection. The T-64BV has been and continues to be the backbone of the Ukrainian army fighting Russia. Their only supply of these vehicles are refurbishments of Soviet-era storage. They will run out of these vehicles. Their infantry fighting vehicle complement are assortments of the same idea, a BMP hull with a 30mm cannon. The BVP-2 is a Czech domestic production run of the BMP-2, which the brigade also operates, while the third IFV is the BMP-1TS, a BMP-1 hull with the BM-7 remote weapon station also seen on the BTR-4. It includes a 30mm autocannon, a coaxial 7.62 machine gun, an automatic grenade launcher in the 30mm, as well as 4 anti-tank guided missiles attached to 2 launchers. The most common IFV in Ukrainian service is the BMP-1, which has worse armor and a 73mm low-pressure gun. Brigades operating BMP-2s in 2022 would have considered themselves luckier than other units, being able to use the superior suppressive capability of automatic fire and the superior anti-vehicle capability of high-velocity APFDS rounds. For light reconnaissance and light fire support, the brigade also operates the BRDM-2, which features very light armor, but a 14.5mm heavy machine gun which can be very potent to most of the troop transports currently in Russian service. The BRDM-2 has seen a lot of use and loss in Ukraine service since the invasion of 2022, with videos showing them in ambush roles against oncoming Russian forces. For artillery support, they operate the old Soviet TS-1 self-propelled gun, a capable but not ideal weapon. While very typical of a 2022 Ukrainian brigade, the BVP-2, BMP-2, and BRDM-2s may not be from Ukrainian stocks but foreign. The BVP-2 is obviously Czech. Denmark has been trying to acquire and deliver a number of 80 BMP-2s for some time according to Oryx, and again reported by Oryx is Bulgarian deliveries of an unknown number of BRDM-2s to Ukraine. This is where things start to get a little bit more vague, as the 151st Mechanized and the 152nd Jaeger have no information about them beyond their formation in 2023. The requirements to arm a Jaeger brigade are far lower than a mechanized brigade, as they are light infantry. The 153rd Mechanized has been bounced around between mechanized and infantry status several times, and their eventual status is unknown, as no equipment has been associated with them. The 156th, 157th, 158th, and 159th are all infantry brigades with no further information about them besides their formation in 2023 October. In terms of equipment, these brigades might be delivered simply by truck in order to help garrison trenches and buildings, but with no further information about these brigades, it is unknown about their status, if Ukraine will continue to keep these units as is, or if their personnel will go to replenish existing losses. That's 7 brigades accounted for around 14,000 men. A 150 series brigade we can actually look at their new equipment is the 154th, and it does not paint a pretty picture. The brigade has been seen training on the T-62M, a violent downgrade in capabilities from the T-64BV. The only saving hope is that they are using this solely for training, and perhaps it is so that they can train with 4-man crews as they await Western MBTs, which also use 4-man crews instead of the Soviet 3. Russian forces have been seen using T-62s in increasing frequency since 2022 to little effect. Promised as support guns, they have been seen along with older T-54-55s leading armored columns on assault. If Ukraine were to start deploying the T-62s they have captured in their armored battalions in their mechanized brigades, it would indicate the acceptance of a gross decrease in capabilities. As mentioned previously, the BMP-1, without the BM-7 upgrade, is the most common IFV in Ukrainian service, and in this new brigade, they have been seen training with the vehicle, and it is very likely the IFV will be in the brigade's service, despite being more like a troop-carrying self-propelled mortar than any proper IFV. Brigade will operate French VAB APCs, an armored wheeled APC with a manned 12.7 heavy machine gun, and the American M117 Guardian. The VAB is being spread among many brigades and has been in Ukrainian service since 2023. Orix suggests over 280 have been promised in ongoing shipments. The M117, however, has been in delivery since March of 2024, and 250 were promised. It is likely this vehicle is one in particular Ukraine has been waiting for the completion of delivery, as it would be enough to equip multiple brigades with armored troop transport. A proposed replacement of the Humvee that Ukraine has made exceptional use of, the M117 has an armored one-man turret with a 12.7mm M2 Browning and a 40mm Mk19 automatic grenade launcher. It should stand up to mines better than the Humvee and can be up-armored to withstand the 14.5 HMG fire equipped on Soviet BTR-60, 70, 80, and BRDM-2s, which are becoming increasingly common. The BRDM-2 is also in service with this brigade, likely to operate alongside M117s who can perform a similar role, albeit with the M117 being more optimized towards infantry suppression and the BRDM-2 having a little bit more teeth against light armor. The 155th was an infantry brigade operating on MTLBs as APCs and are fighting in Kursk currently in that role. However, they've also recently been upgraded to mechanized status, with an armored complement of Leopard 2A4s currently training in Poland. And military land attributes French Caesar SPGs to also be in use with that brigade. They have no confirmed IFVs or respectable APCs, so Ukraine is likely looking to equip that brigade further, but needs them currently in the fight. On a related note, another mechanized brigade currently in combat with tankers training on Leopard 2A4s in Poland is the 33rd Mechanized, which is originally a brigade from the 2023 counteroffensive. This brigade is in combat near Konstantinivka and is unknown when they will be reinforced with a replenished tank battalion of excellent modern Western MBTs. A less modern Western MBT bearing the title Leopard seems to be the backbone of the new tank brigade. The 5th Armored was reformed in 2023 to provide heavy armored support for Ukraine's defensive lines. The catch is, they're not at all that heavily armored. Around 155 Leopard 1A5 variants have been promised to Ukraine. At the beginning of 2024 in May, 100 were confirmed delivered, with 10 being used for training in Germany, a total of 90 for combat use. Soon after, another delivery of 10 was announced by United 24. The Leopard 1A5 is not anywhere near as well armored as a T-64. It might have been more resistant to cook-offs and may be safer for the crew, but that has yet to be proven. The Leopard 1A5 does operate the accurate and potent 105mm L7 rifled gun, which outperforms the shorter auto-loaded projectiles of the Soviet 125mm. Tank crews who operated both in an interview on UA Land Force's YouTube channel, T-72s were only accurate out to about 2 kilometers, while the Leopard 1A5 was accurate out to 4. They did not specify their criteria for accuracy, as we have seen extensive use of T-Series tanks providing fire support at far longer ranges, so the criteria was probably stricter than hitting a tree line. That being said, double the accurate range would be fairly helpful with achieving first hit in any engagement, especially when coupled with superior stabilization allowing for fire on the move. The Leopard 1A5 has seen combat since 2023, and its first recorded loss being in the Kharkiv region when it was disabled. A further 2 were lost as destroyed during the 2024 Russian Kharkiv offensive, all of these tanks being in their original configuration. The 21st Brigade posted an image with one during their time in tourney, shortly before regaining lost ground, and then posted another image where the vehicle was receiving long-awaited ERA upgrades. In September, multiple interviews, images, and high-quality photo ops were held displaying the vehicle with the 5th Armored Brigade, a new brigade. These tanks were plastered with ERA and sporting retractable drone nets. Almost unrecognizable, these will help with heat shells commonly used on FPV drones, which are likely the highest threat to armored vehicles in Ukraine. The brigade has consolidated some logistics for the Ukrainian military by bringing under its wing the other operator of 105mm on the L7 gun, the M-55S, a Slovenian-Israeli upgrade of the T-55. 2 were lost early in 2023, with 1 damaged, 1 destroyed, both by 155mm guided artillery shells. Soon after, they were relegated to operate as self-propelled artillery throughout 2023. If they were to be reintroduced to the tank role, it would not be too dissimilar from the role that the Leopard 1A5s are taking on, and would certainly be better than T-62Ms in that role. All this serves to highlight a degradation of capability on both sides of the conflict, as over the course of a year, systems thought unsuitable for roles before are returning to fulfill those roles now. More traditionally, the brigade also seems to be operating T-72s donated export models from former Soviet and Warsaw Pact states. The T-72 remains the most common foreign donated MBT to Ukraine, but has been replacing losses with already existing brigades. With over 200 PBV-302s promised in early 2024, Ukraine would be capable of equipping and sustaining at least a brigade exclusively operating the vehicle, or could partially equip and fully sustain multiple brigades for troop transportation. The previously mentioned 250 M117s are in the same boat. 23 British scimitars, claimed delivered in 2023, would do a better job than the BRDM-2s currently in the same role, but those scimitars have had no sightings. The claimed 300-plus M2 Bradleys would be enough to replace all of the 47th's extensive losses and equip a new brigade with enough left over to sustain both in 2025. The 35 CV90-35NLs that have been in talks for years, promised in early 2024, are still nowhere closer to be put in service. Oryx states 80 Danish promised BMP-2s are yet to be delivered, 400-plus British APCs and 400 German APCs are yet to be delivered, with the fate of the German ones being dubious. The German promise of Boxers with 30mm cannons has simply been removed from Oryx, and early 2024 Dutch promises of YPR-765s with remote turrets were just never seen again. These are just to name a few. There are thousands of vehicles promised, but undelivered after a year of Ukraine's hardest fighting. And these are from countries with pools of vehicles being retired or recently retired. A quick look through some of the countries on Wikipedia gives you a low ball of about 2.4 thousand IFVs, 6.8 thousand APCs, 1.2 thousand fire support AFVs, and over 250 modern main battle tanks, all in the process of retirement or recently retired/replaced. Vehicles deemed no longer of use by their own governments, not even including all the older Cold War vehicles that are probably in deep storage within these countries. Europe has not run out of equipment despite giving rhetoric otherwise, and they are in the process of building a larger number of higher quality goods for their own use. US aid should continue to flow, especially with more consistency, but Europe has sat for almost 3 years and not awoken from a coma it went into after the collapse of the Soviet Union. With the degradation of Russian capabilities and heavy equipment, modern aid would make all the more the difference. Even older systems have a place against a foe that is relying more and more on motorbikes, golf carts, dismounted infantry, with rarer and rarer MTLBs being used as makeshift APCs. Russian armor initially mobilized in response to the Kursk incursion was largely made up of T-62s, as was a large contingent of their heavy armor in the assault on Kharkiv that same year. There is evidence of Russia having cleared through much of their entire Cold War Soviet stockpile of capable systems. This would certainly not be the time to falter or delay with systems that preserve Ukrainian life to the degree to offset Russia's numerical advantage. In a later video, I want to put to use some research I've done looking at the discrepancies between survivability between Western and Soviet systems, because even with the fog of war, the differences are absolutely stark.